Welcome to Familiar Territory, an anime podcast hosted by two white dudes who've been friends for over 15 years. Here we talk about the history and influence of anime, as well as review anime new and old. So grab your talking cap and transform into some comfy clothes as we step into a familiar territory. My name is Grant.
And I'm Brantley. Heads up, spoilers on the way. Check the description, see if you're safe to listen. Have you heard the rumor of the algorithm express? They say... Sorry, there's a fucking car going by, and I don't want to ruin my bit. So, listen.
Oh yeah, because cars are the reason your bits get ruined.
Yeah, see, you get it. That's why we work together. So, okay. They say when YouTube podcasters go on hiatus, they get a one-way ticket for the algorithm express. Mandatory use. They say you can catch up on work while you ride, and you'll be taken care of until you're ready again. Now, the Algorithm Express is faster than any train known to humanity. Once you're on board, you'll be speeding by so quickly, no one's ever gonna hear you or see you at all. However, some say that this is a trick. They say that the Algorithm Express is actually perfectly still, totally motionless. And while you're on board, the world leaves you behind in the blink of an eye. Hey, Grant.
Yes, Brant.
How long have we been on this train?
3 weeks. 3 weeks was the last time we uploaded a full episode.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Algorithm Express, I guess. If you're here, wow, that's a shock, but good to have you here. What are we going to talk about today, Grant?
Today we're going to talk about the long-awaited episode by us, no one else, Magia Record.
Magia Record.
The Madoka Magica spin-off.
Wow. We've been sitting on this since, like, our first episodes.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we should talk about Magia Record, and then we never did.
Yep, and now we're here. We actually rewatched it, so this is our second time through. That has, I think, affected our opinions on things in some interesting ways. But we should probably start with some basic info. Grant, do you want to sort of catch folks up on what they're getting into?
So Madoka Magica is my favorite anime of all time. And I watched it when I was in high school, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait for them to make more of it. And then they never did. And they kept saying, oh, we're gonna get something's coming. You're gonna watch it. And then they're like, all right, you ready? Gachapon game. I was like, fuck that noise. Whatever. I'm waiting for it. And they're like, hey, new anime. And everyone got real hype. And then it's based off the Gachapon game. And then they finally announced movie 4 like 2 months ago. But still, fuck. Magia Record has 36 episodes in total, which makes it twice as long as the Madoka Magica actual show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as of right now, they have season 1 and 2 done, which means they have 13 episodes of season 1 and 8 episodes of season 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's just not as good.
It's certainly different. Actually, okay, that's something I wanted to like talk about right off the bat before we get into like our review of things. So, like, now that we've like gotten through it a second time, if someone's like looking into watching Magia Record before, say, like movie 4 comes out, which I don't think will be connected to this really, but you know, just to warm back up into the Madoka content. Yeah, who knows at this point. But in general, like, do you feel like you have any recommendations on like why someone might want or not want to catch up on Magia Record if they have watched Madoka before?
I mean, like, Magia Record's still a competently made show. There's some animation issues. Magia Record's still good. It's just not going to be It's not going to be
Madoka?
It's not going to be anything more than a fun show to watch. I don't think there's any time where I'm watching that I'm like, wow, I can't believe they did that, or that's shocking. I just like, oh yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Ooh, there is one reason. Yachio is a good reason to watch the show.
Yeah. So thankfully, and Yachio is a character that shows up early. So if that pulls you in, then you're good. But otherwise, I suppose this is kind of a 3-episode test.
Yeah, it's weirdly filler. It's pretty filler for what it is. But that's okay.
Yeah, I think you'll find substance in the characters and plots. And if that reels you in, then you're good. And if you're kind of questioning, like, do I continue? Then maybe you don't have to continue.
Right.
I think it's worth knowing that, like, it's not Madoka and it shouldn't be. I think if it tried to take its premise of here's the gacha characters and now let's expand on this. If it tried to do what Madoka did, I don't think it would work. What you've seen in Madoka doesn't really chop up well into these like distinct segments, nor would it stretch well either. So although it's probably for the best, that doesn't mean that, if you like Madoka, you'll also like Magia Record and vice versa. So
right.
Yeah.
Although I can't imagine anyone watching Magia Record before Madoka. I'm like, unless it's an accident. I can't imagine anyone would be like, "Oh, what's this nonsense?" I'm gonna watch the spinoff before I watch the OG. Let's dive into to it. So one of the big things is that Magia Record is still made by Magical Quintet. So that's Generabuchi's Magical Girl group. So that has Akiyuki Shinbu, Generabuchi, and Ume Aoki. But the producer is not the same producer. But they created Magia Record. In fact, going through it, there is a ton of people that worked on the original Madoka that are on this.
Interesting.
So
I would expect, like, because, like, Akiyuki Shinbo is very much a Shaft mainstay. Like,
yeah.
I'm a little surprised that Urabuchi is still working on this in some sense.
And he might not be, but Magica Quintet is still credited as the creators.
Okay,
and
yeah.
those are them, but it could just be one of them, right?
Yeah. Okay, so like, for example, I'm looking at the My Anime List credits, and so Akiyuki Shinbo is listed as animation check. So
yes,
perhaps we have like a bit of a rotation going on here, which neat. Interesting.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, right? You have like Itamura Tomoyuki, who was the script for Madoka. He is not the script for this one. So it's like you have some elements that are not being seen, but then you have like Takashi Kawabata, once again, episode director for the movies, but not in the new one. But hold on, who's the big one? There is one guy that I was like, oh yeah, that guy's still in all of them. I have so many fucking tabs.
There's a lot to go through.
There is. It is. There's still a lot. So like you have, Yukihiro Miyamoto, who was the storyboard for a lot of Magia Record and was the series director for the original, and he's the assistant director for Magia Record. Gotcha. So you have some director staffs that are the same, but you also have some storyboard and script that are going to be different. So but it's not as different as you would think. You would think that being a spinoff, you would have very little consistency, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, this is not the case of like, oh, it's a gag show. Like, it's still doing its best to mimic what Madoka had to deliver the first time. And in some ways, I still call it a mimicry. Like, it sometimes it feels like they're kind of struggling a little bit to keep up with that, given the format and like the sheer number of gacha characters they have to include, and like just the weirdness that format brings to this. In fact, I don't know how much this overlaps between, say, like the quintet working on the gacha game and then back to the anime. Like, I don't know where that splits or if this is totally separate.
It's quartet, by the way. There's only 4.
Quartet. Oh,
I can't read.
Okay, so we've now re-entered the universe in which one of those people doesn't exist anymore. They got Madokami'd, I guess. But yeah, it's safe to say this is a weird one. And so I think I'm personally going to have a lot of back and forth as we go through this review. I'm probably gonna sound very probably like I have no idea what I'm talking about. So like maybe
But you
that's
don't.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's get very comfortable. Let's lean way back in the armchair. And
I'm
I think
drinking Robitussin like it's fucking coffee right now.
yeah. Oh, fun fact. Did you know that a stage play came before the anime release?
For a Magia record?
Yeah.
That checks. I feel like they were like, we're gonna make a Gachapon game. We'll make a stage play. There's probably gonna be some manga. There was that four panel joke manga they made, and they finally just bit the bullet and made a full anime.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's worth mentioning too. Yeah, this is not Magia record is not any of like the four coma stuff or anything like that. Or those little I don't know who the character designer is off the top of my head, but the person who makes those little Madoka chibis with the gigantic eyes, I think they probably do Fate stuff as well. I don't know. But anyways,
Probably.
this is not like a gag show. This is almost as close as you can get to extended content in the same universe, but it's still fucky. So okay, yeah, let's get into our feelings on Magia record. Where do you want to start?
Let's just start with kind of a recap of it. We
All right.
normally talk about that. So Magia record takes place in Kamihama City. They draw the attention of Iraha, who is brought to it to find her sister, who she forgets exists and then remember exists. But they draw magical girls here because it is a place where magical girls can be saved. And coming from people who know the original series, spoiler alert for basically every Madoka Magica thing ever, by the way. It's really hard to talk about this specific show without going into the intricacies that the rest of the Madoka universe has.
Mm-hmm.
So I doubt we're going to be able to keep that secret here.
Yeah. They're still trying their best to use the same rule set. And they make their own tweaks, but it's surprisingly close to the same baseline. So
yeah,
fire away.
So Iraha, as someone, if you know what it is, you know that magical girls being saved means not turn into witches, because we know that is the end game for magical girls going into the show. She goes to find her sister, and in doing so, she meets three magical girls. You have Momoko, Kaede, and Rina. And they talk about how Kamihama's kind of witch problem is based on rumors. When rumors become believable, they create I think they call it what do they call it again? Ursawa or something?
Uwasa. It's just rumor. It's just the Japanese term they're using. Yeah.
So the Uwasawa. Uwasa. Yeah, that's it. They are these rumors that manifest as witches. And they act just like that. And so you have these magical girls fighting to see which rumors are actually manifesting and which ones aren't, which honestly is hella cool. I really, really like that gimmick that Kamihama. Fuck. Yeah, that one. I don't know how to say anything. I like that gimmick. And it also kind of creates this area where the magical girls don't need to be corrupted and to turn into witches for them to have someone to fight. And we actually see why this happens later, but I digress.
Yeah, the stakes in general are lowered here because they're figuring out a way around the system that was so exploitative and damaging in the original series.
And it's pretty good. I really like that. And so as she works with these three magical girls, she meets a mysterious, long-haired, dark-haired magical girl named Yachio, who is very Homura-coded at the beginning. And that's something that I kind of feel this show does almost immediately. You have Rina, who is very Kyoko-coded. You have Iraha, who's Madoka-coded. You have Momoko, who is Mami-coded. And Kaede is just kind of a soft character. She's not really, but you find these characters that have almost direct parallels to the original characters in the show.
Mm-hmm.
However, those characters don't stay too long. Now, that's not to say that you don't get characters that are also coded like the previous characters, but they kind of introduce you to this world with giving you something familiar before they start changing it. And I actually appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you walk into this and you're like, hey, they're just copying the original series notes, stick around if like you're interested, because I honestly do think that the characters do diverge, even if some of them share DNA.
Yeah.
You know, no guarantees you'll like the new characters more because they're spread thin. Like, you're gonna notice duplications of certain archetypes, as happens when they have such a enormous list of them.
Yeah, this show does a lot of, hey, here's your favorite gacha character.
Mm-hmm. Let's put them up on a TV screen for a little while, so even though they're not in the show right now, you can still see, hey, look, there they are. You know.
Yeah, the show definitely has a problem of not following like a main core group of magical girls until very much the end.
Yeah, if you're doing your 3-episode test, then you are going to stop seeing those characters that you're getting used to. Like, they're gonna disappear for a while, so it's kind of, there are like almost 2 main arcs, and they're very lopsided. One of them takes a few episodes, like at the beginning, and then after those, like 3 or so, then you move to a new group, and they carry the rest of the season, so.
Yep.
And then season 2, from what we've even previewed, like, that kind of resets things again, so, you know, it's different.
It is. So Iroha meets Yachio, and Yachio is, I don't want to say she takes Iroha out of under her wings, but she does. She's like, hey, come live with me, and I'll help you find your sister. And in doing so, they meet 3 other magical girls. You get Felicia, who is this gremlin of a character who has just the worst fucking outfit. And her story is that her parents were killed by witches, so she wished that that won't happen again, and by doing so, she's just like, I gotta kill all the witches. Very, just revenge-filled story. You have Tsuruno, who is a girl with fans. She is, she helps run a restaurant, and she is Yachio's protege from previous fighting, I think.
Yeah.
And then you have Sana, who is a girl with a shield, who was trapped in this digital world with an AI, because she wished that no one could see her. She wanted to be invisible. And then, of course, you have Iroha, who is your main character, and then Yachio, who's your main character, but mysterious.
Yeah.
But I know we talked a little bit about the rumors, but let's talk about things that this show does that are competent.
Okay.
Before we talk about production stuff. I think that they make the best parts about this is the main cast of magical girls, Tsuruno, Iroha, Yachio, Sana, and Felicia, have some pretty damn good chemistry near the end, where they all live with Yachio, because Yachio is a college student, and she has a boarding house that she lives in, and so they all move in, and there's just a lot of fun chillness in that atmosphere. It kind of reminds me of the dorms in Persona 3, where you're coming in and everyone's there, and it's like a miniature. It's like a small family.
Yeah. Found family is a great trope that's very, very well loved at this point in time. So.
Yeah, and they do a really good job with it. It's a little unfortunate because you don't get to see a ton of it, because by the time this happens, the anime is about to go into the final spiral. But it works. What's something that you think this show does really well?
I think I think in general, the quality of production is good, more so at the beginning than the end. I can't say for certain whether things start to trail off at the end, or just because I was focusing more on the plot details and stuff that I wasn't paying as close of attention, but like, the early stuff feels very Madoka, and it feels very Shaft. Downtime is filled in with these little animations that people are doing. There's a lot of attention to the push glasses up on the face cinematography. Like it's they love like peppering their scenes with these little details that kind of non-verbally reaffirm what's going on. And so like things like how the shot is framed, light and shadow, like these like visual languages of the show feel like they're very intact and they're very purposeful. I want to say that as the show goes on, things get a little more wobbly when they have to put more towards action and they have to put more towards like just kind of plot and exposition and stuff. It feels like things are more flat, or that their shots are more pragmatic, which is kind of like, all right, let's show this from like a 3/4 angle, and there, just here's everybody on screen so that they can say what they need to say. But there's plenty at the beginning in particular that feels very Madoka, where they've got these like I was wiki diving on some of the environments to try to make sure I got like the city names right, and in doing so, you look at the shots in Madoka, and there's so many of them that are like essentially like a very flat shot towards like a right angle of the environment. So it's like you have like the camera is perfectly aligned up against a wall, and then like from that wall you have perspective like pulled inwards, and so it's almost like the characters are like staged up against that. And so then the camera kind of like hits those right angles. You get those perfectly flat backgrounds, and then the perspective that like leads you back towards it. And so like you get these shots with very like high focus in terms of like who's here, who's talking, what are they trying to say. Like iconic one from original Madoka is like you've got that like that like white bridge part of the school, I think, and Madoka's kind of having like a showdown with Homura up there, and so you have just like the perspective lines of the bridge are drawing you in towards Homura over on the other side or whatever. Like it's stuff like that feels very stylistic towards Madoka is still preserved very well up at the beginning. And again, like say like when you have this this like sort of like sour moment between Reina and Kaede at like the in one of the earlier episodes. It's like on the doorstep, and they have this very clear line of light and shadow that's sort of separating things, and it's up against this like once again this like it's flat to the background. It's interesting. It's kind of minimalistic in its like composition. It's very frank, and I like that. I don't know if it makes any sense. This is certainly not coming out of Film 101 or anything like that, but it's just pleasant, and it reads well. And then things get messy later, as far as I can tell, but maybe that's also placebo. Are there any scenes that like struck you in particular throughout this season?
The mug scene is really good.
Yeah, well, it's another one, right, where they have this like you have this sheer wall of like stuff, and the camera's just squared up perfectly against it. And the characters are just like there, and they're putting the cameras in places that are like making the characters feel very small, or like you're right up with them, and it's very intimate, and that like back and forth contrast is very intriguing to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good. I really liked the scene where we get into Kamihama City with all the trees growing out of the buildings.
Oh god, yeah.
And like the birds on their perches, and before Iraha gets on the train. There's just something about like how natural Kamihama City looks. It reminds me a lot of those concepts of like green cities, and I really dig that. I really like I love Gauschberger or Gauschberger.
Yeah,
it's so stupid. It's fucking dumb, but it works. The hospitals are good. I like seeing one of the ones that weirdly gets to me is when they're like on the rooftops and you have the the whack chairs stacked up. The witch fight on the bridge is really good. There's a lot of good very early on. I think we get a lot of early on cinematography is good. The Lucky Owl Water scene's really good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just a lot of gorgeous environments in this show. Like, so many of them are just wallpaper ready, you know.
Yes.
Which, you know, if you've watched Shaft stuff before, then maybe that feels like, well, of course. But just to reassert that, like, I agree, like, when you're in, like, say the first episode and we're still in Takarazaki City and you've got this green futurism going on, like this is one of the few shows I can think of where it's like modern future and magical girls. Aside from like the more cyber, like future, like early internet tech stuff where it's like, I haven't watched it yet, but like, what's it called? Let me go look up a name really quickly.
Look at this fool, doesn't know anything about anime. Why would you ever trust a word we goddamn say?
I've been thinking about it. Okay, so like Battle Doll Angelic Layer. Like that's one where it's kind of like or like Corrector Yui. Both of those are like kind of like cyber digital sort of like, you know, internet type things where it's like, hey, it's people battling in a digital space or whatever. It's like there's that, but this is something that's still like in the human world, and technology is mostly preserved to like here's some holograms here and there or you know, projections and whatever, but like the greenness of everything and like the almost like the hoity-toity like high concept architecture is just, it's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't see it anywhere else.
No, it has some good stuff to it.
Yeah. It is. It's extra. It's not Madoka where you've got like Mitakihara. It is very minimalistic and more grounded in comparison, even though it's still futuristic in that, you know, in the original, but it's a lot more reserved.
Yes.
You know, it's a lot more restrained, you know, where the classroom feels very like out of the box sort of concrete, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, safe to say we really like the environments here.
Yeah. Now, another design things that we really like are the casual outfits. And I have to say casual because I have some takes about the magical girl outfits.
Yeah.
But the casual outfits look good. I remember like there's a scene where Sereno, Yachio, and Iroha are trying to find Felicia, and Felicia's wearing like these short overalls with like a hoodie underneath. Serena has like these high-waisted shorts with a shirt that says twice cooked pork, and Yachio is just fucking girl bossing it with whatever she's wearing. I don't remember. All her outfits are great. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, this reminds me a lot of Sailor Moon, where you would have all these different outfits that these characters would wear when they go out, and they seem to be really styled based on who is wearing them. So like, you know, Rei would have a different set of outfits than Usagi, but it would still fit them, and it felt really 90s. And I feel like Magia Record managed to encapsulate like the late the early 2020s in what they are having their characters wear, which is weirdly enough very reminiscent of the 90s in terms of fashion. You have those overalls, you have those loose fitted shirt and the high waisted shorts, you have the high collared shirts and like the long pants that Yachio wears. You have a lot of similar fashion being shown here, and they managed to capture it really, really well. Mm-hmm. And I dig that. I think it's really good. And then you have the magical girl outfits, and they just suck ass.
They're far less interesting and far less consistent, for sure.
One of the biggest shocks is whenever one of the original characters comes, like when you see Sayaka throw the fire extinguisher and she shows up, or when you see Kyoko like transform and start fighting, or even when Mommy just shoots a gun and walks down the stairs. All three of them are in it. They're the only three you see. And what's wild about it is they all seem to be from the same show. They all seem to have a similar theme. They look like they were designed by the same person for different people. And they're just so much better. Mm-hmm. Whether you have like the long coat that like Kyoko has, or the cape that Sayaka has, kind of like, you know, the outlaw like rogue who's walking around that represents Kyoko, or the cape that represents like this heroic feature, and like the knight kind of paladin-y aspect that Sayaka has. Or then you see like Mommy, who has like the corset and the leather boots with like the hat with a feather, because it's like, oh, that's a gunslinger, she's a soldier. It all fits them, but they all seem to be made by the same person. So they have this consistency throughout it. Everyone in Magia Records outfits look like they are wildly different, with only one thing connecting them, and that is whoever designed them loves to see girls' stomachs.
Yeah, lots of exposed like midriffs, lots,
and like, and they just don't always fit their character. Like Iroha, I don't get why she has like a mesh shirt on her. I think her hood looks good, and that makes sense, but everything else just seems wildly weird.
Yeah.
Sana's outfit's fine. I really liked it the first time I watched it, but watching again, it kind of bores me.
Yeah.
It's just like, here she has like a magical girl outfit, but she has some plate armor.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
It's not great.
It's not very like abstract. So like,
yeah.
I'll you know, like, as you mentioned, like, there are these like sort of cues in the magical girls' outfits from Madoka that like convey what purpose they serve, or what like attitude that they have. But in the case of like Sana, for example, it's very like function first. It's like literally she's wearing armor. In other characters, it's the opposite. It's like, hey, here's like a more like you know, traditional set of clothing, but also again like exposed midriff, weirdly, which, you know, I don't think would normally happen with that kind of traditional getup. I'm looking at you, Saruno. And so yeah, it's just weird. It's just odd. And that's not even to say that like that totally mismatches some of these characters. Like, I might expect like Saruno to like stylistically fit a crop top, something like that, you know. But like the fact that a lot of other characters also still have it and it doesn't fit, characters like Iroha, whose getup seems to be sort of this like Robin Hood almost, like, you know, cloak kind of thing, and like or at least some kind of like medieval roguish, you know, secret person, you know, that Iroha's not like, you know, I don't know. It's hard. I feel like there's something there, but it's not really congealing. And maybe it's just the lack of my imagination, but it feels like it's grasping at something it's not complete in at least the anime. Maybe it's more apparent in how she acts in the mobile game or something, but in the meantime, it just feels awkward that her character is kind of figuring out like, wow, I have missing memories and I need to go find my sister, and all the while she has this very specific like European medieval fantasy like cloak look going on. I don't know, it escapes me.
Yeah, it's very weird. And like the only person who I could be like, oh, that one works is probably Yachio.
Mm-hmm.
With the ball gown that she has, and it's fine. It's not. I like the design. It hugs her body in weird ways. But other than that, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The transformation scenes barely exist in this show, and when they do, they're good. They're not as clever as Madoka, where Madoka always tries to put in different thematic elements into the transformations.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, it just happens, but it's nice. They're good to look at, and they only last a couple minutes, like a couple seconds. But the amount of times that they just go into magical girl form is almost every episode, except the first time you see them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty like Madoka. Madoka only does one transformation scene, I think, per character, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I can't remember there being too much in the original series except for the one time.
Mm-hmm. Same. I think all of this kind of bothers us because it seems like there are moments in the show where they very much understand what the characters are about and can reduce it to some kind of image form. Like you mentioned the mug store. Like, I think the mugs represent these characters better than their outfits do.
The mug store is great. I can't. let's just real quick. Let's talk about the mug store for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be super long, but it will be. What a fucking wild just scene. So for those who haven't seen it and you're not gonna watch it, once Yachio finds all these wandering magical girls who need a place to live, she's like, well, I used to have mugs with the other magical girls that lived here, so let's go get mugs. Now, you would think, oh, they're gonna go to like an IKEA or like some furniture store that just so happens to have like culinary areas. Nah, they go to a store dedicated to mugs, and it is like 5 stories tall.
In what you could have assumed was like a 2-story tall mall, like a strip mall.
Yeah,
sort of.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. There's like ladders to climb up to get your mugs. There's no organization. If someone told me that the mugs just appear on whatever shelves they need to, I'd believe it.
That thing looks like a labyrinth. Like it's
Yeah, it really does. It really does. But it's fun. It's a fun little scene. It's weird as hell for no reason, and I dig it. So you have some good shit, and one of the main plot line that you eventually find out is that there is a cult of magical girls called the Wings of Magius that are getting magical girls here to save them. And they're weird as hell, and they're run by 3 children, like actual children. We only know one of them, but I'm pretty sure it's the 3 children that we've seen. And the idea is that you can purge your soul gem of negative thoughts by being a witch for like 5 seconds. And so they have a form called the Doppel form where they harness the power of witches to fight, which is cool. A lot of the Doppel fights are really good. But I don't know how thematically appropriate Magius is.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get to see a ton of it, but they're never painted as the good guys. The most members you see of Magius are these twin girls that have flutes, and you see them a couple times, and they're almost always antagonistic.
Yeah, it's odd. Like, for all intents and purposes, they should be, like, pretty reasonable. Like, it sounds like if they're, like, you know, hey, we're saving magical girls, here's how doppels work, then, like, yeah, that's agreeable. But also, their aesthetic is awfully, like, for lack of better words, fascist. Like,
they have big faces on things. They have everyone wearing the same robes. I mean, like,
they play very loose with some information, and other information is very secretive. They, like, as far as we can tell, they're literally mind controlling some characters. And so it's like, why is this necessary if they actually do have everyone's best interest in mind? And so it's just weird. Like, you know, knowing enough Madoka plot, it seems like what they should be going for should be perfectly fine. Like, that everyone would just say, yeah, this is something we should do. But the way they go about it makes them seem like just the absolute worst.
And, like, they constantly fight our main characters. Just constantly fight them. And, like, when we see Mami, who has been indoctrined, she has a completely new form. Her eyes are glazed over, and she fights Sayaka. It's interesting. And one of the reasons that we wanted to hold off on doing this review is because we wanted to see how the second season would be. But after rewatching it, we're like, well, there's a fuck ton of stuff we need to talk about on the first season, and we've noticed that our 2-season-long episodes tend to go on for too fucking long, so we're like, oh, we'll split it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. And there's a mini QB. I don't know why we haven't mentioned that. I think it hasn't been said. As far as I know, as of now, I don't know who mini QB is. I believe it's Ui. I believe it's Iraha's little sister. I believe she wished to have the power of Kyuubi, and that's how she got it. But it's weird.
Yeah,
It's
I'd also
up.
say that's a good guess. Yeah, it's interesting. This show feels like it very much understands what it's doing and also sometimes strays very far from what it's already set up. So
I
to pull some sort of random examples, like when it comes to the mugs, um like, Sana wants one that has cats on it. Like that's not something that was like deliberately ever part of Sana's character. It has nothing to do with the AI that she spent time with in the Rumor Labyrinth. It doesn't have anything to do with, her games of chess she's played, or like, her isolation or anything like that. But it makes sense that she would be a cat person. Because she wants to start socializing again, but she's not very verbal about it, and it's kind of like she needs a warm body. And so, like, yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. Connect the dots, and there's a cat. But then also the Wings of Magius as an opposing force, like, they're practically impossible to read at this point. Like, I honestly don't know, like we said, like there's just all these red flags that they're evil. But they're also not like, there's not enough information out there for us to really make any kind of strong determination here or there.
They haven't done anything evil.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, well, they'll fight back and they'll like pick fights. And there's people who work with Wings of Magius who are obviously just total dicks. Like, there's Alina Gray, who I think is probably least favorite character of both Grant and I, and probably a very much like a favorite character of everybody else.
She is a graphic designer, and she represents everything wrong with graphic designers.
For example, graphic designers shouldn't try to kill people. Generally frowned upon.
She does that. She speaks in German, I think. I don't actually think she does. I think I'm making that up, Brantley.
I don't think it was German. It might have been French or
it's French. That's it. The second bastard language. She's like, she wears Jotaro's hat from JoJo Part 3, and her magical girl outfit doesn't look like she ever transformed.
Yeah.
It's like, look at my black outfit with a hat. And then she calls you a bitch, and you're like, what the fuck, Alina Gray? And then she leaves. She doesn't do anything. Like, like, real talk, she comes in, says some mean thing, talks in French, and an AI warps her away, and she never shows back up in the first season.
It's very weird because, like, they'll run into, like, members of the Wings of Magius, and they're like, what are you doing here? And they're like, I don't know, what are you up to? And they're like, don't talk to us, do you want to join us? Well, no, I don't think so. Okay, we'll fight you, and then bye, and they're away. Like, it's just like, why did this even happen? like slap fights are initiating for seemingly no good reason. Like Iroha manages to separate one of the Amane sisters, and like gets information out of her and everything. Like, she legitimately like tracks her down and stalks her at school because she's still going to school despite being part of this, mega cult. And then like Iroha, of all people, manages to like convince her to get her back into Wings of Magius and interrogates, basically. But then it ends up that she's just like sort of captive there anyways, so she just walks herself into it. It's like, what's the purpose of this? Like, this, it's so clumsy. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fucked. It doesn't make sense. It's like, there's so much they want to do, but they have so many characters and they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to sum it up. Speaking of which, I think we've been circling the drain on the characters a lot so far. Are there any in particular that you want to sort of talk about more deeply?
I want to talk about all the main 5, but I would even go like Arina, Kaede, and Momoko are other ones. We haven't even fucking mentioned Yachio's girlfriend.
Oh yeah, Mifuyu. I've been thinking about a way to bring her in, but she's like weirdly like
absent.
She's important,
but she's not in there. She's absent. She shows up maybe twice.
She shows up and says, "Hey, please join Wings of Magius, and they're like, no, and she's like, okay, I guess we're not friends anymore, maybe, and just kind of like leave, or like, or she might like attack, and then it turns out it wasn't really her, and she disappears, or things like that. Like it's this weird like their confrontations are purely suggestive, they're having like an argument or a persuasive tug of war, but that's about it. And sometimes like hands do get thrown, but it's never anything meaningful. They're not actually fighting over anything objective. It's strictly about like just like who's kind of winning the thought war. I don't know. They're not even obstructing each other really.
Is the thought war THOUGHT or THOT?
No comment. Yeah, it's. I guess maybe the one reason why they might get in each other's way is because they're like, hey, stop. Oh, okay. No, I can bring this back around. It's because they don't want them killing rumors. They're like, don't fight the Uasa because we get emotional energy out of them. But then like they actively try to like fight and kill the main cast using witches of their own as pawns, and it's like that also feels counterproductive to your plans anyways. Like you're seemingly very powerful in number and very secret, despite the fact that like there's so many of you. Despite all that clandestine power they have, they still go on the aggressive side of things, and it just feels like too much. I don't know. Maybe we're reading too far into this, and it's just not worth it.
It's always worth it.
Technically, there are plot reasons for why they would want to engage.
Right. We don't see too much of them in the first season, though, which is, I remember that was specifically the reason we wanted to continue watching it before we reviewed it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the characters now. I think we've circled this proverbial drain enough.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about Kaede, Momoko, and Rina real quick as a group.
Yeah.
I think introducing them as the first characters that Iroha interacts with was really good. They already have a dynamic that exists. You don't need to see the dynamic grow. Momoko is the senpai of the group. She is the magical girl veteran who watches over Rina and Kaede. Her transformation seems fun because she kicks a sword. I like that a lot. Her outfit sucks ass, but hey.
But
yep.
Hey. You can take what you get in this show,
Kaede is Uwu soft girl. She wants to make her garden, and she apologizes all the time for her friend Rina doing things wrong. Rina, however, is an interesting character. Her wish was that she wished that she could be someone else, so she has shapeshifting powers. And I really like her use of them. I like that she uses it as a way to separate herself and kind of like it's a really good representation of disassociative stuff,
mm-hmm.
where when she's feeling sad and upset, she disassociates. And that is when she becomes a different person.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite scenes that involves those three. They're at the Gauchburger, which is a burger, Gauchburger, and they're eating food, and as they're eating, they're arguing. And on the walls are very, very targeted ads about them. Like forget what I said, I didn't mean it, or disgusting, I hate you. Or I don't know what is going on. Like it's just a bunch of like straight up English words that are just explaining the emotions of the characters, and for some reason I'm like, that's art right there. I don't need to read into it. I don't need them to, it doesn't need to be a deeper meaning. It's not like the fucking unicycle scene in this show where there's unicyclists just unicycling. They're just like, this is what's going on, and you're like, yep, that's fucked. And they kind of introduced the idea of the USA with the friendship ending stairs. I like them as characters. I really do. I'm glad they don't get a lot of screen time, though.
Yes. Yeah, totally agree.
They are very much characters that you are looking into them, but you're not part of them. And that's how Iroha feels, and that's how the audience feels, and that's it. But they do come back as kind of support characters, and I really dig that.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really dig that.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about the main cast.
Alrighty.
Let's talk about Serenu, because I think I have the least to say about her.
Yeah, I think that Tsuruno is a character that does and doesn't need any character development. Like, I am not endeared to her as a character at all, but I also think that she's perfectly serviceable being like the carefree glue of the group. Like, she fills in the gaps, and that is worth a lot. For a show like this where everyone kind of needs to be having, I say everyone meaning most of the characters are undergoing these like, usually like tragic developments. For one character to be there who's not doing any of that, that lends some stability to things, and it means that some of the character chemistry can still like stick around. So when we're introducing Sana to the group and Sana needs time to warm up, then Tsuruno is the one who's sort of like the comedic or like warm backbone of everything that's going on. Um, you know, like as a carefree character, it's kind of hokey. Like the way she acts, it's very like blunt force happy. But you wouldn't get that out of Iroha. Like Iroha has to be there for this more like authentic, naive, nice girl thing going on. And so Tsuruno's good at breaking guards. I don't think she needs any kind of tragic underpinning or like an arc of her own. I think she's fine as she is. She would never be my favorite character, but that's okay.
Yep, I kind of feel the same. And she fills that important role of having someone who is just outwardly positive and a fairly depressing cast. So let's talk about some of the sadder characters. Let's talk about Sana.
Yeah.
Sana, I liked a lot the first time I watched it. I think her story is very tragic. She felt like she didn't have any friends, and she felt that people were making fun of her, so she wished to be invisible, so no one can see her but other magical girls. And in doing so, she felt even more lost, because that's how this shit works. And then she is taken by an AI that is created by the Cult of the Wings of Magius. I'm not sure. It's really unclear. And if it is clear, I missed it.
Yeah, me too.
But she becomes friends with this AI, and every day she's like, man, I love hanging out with her. And the AI is like, man, this isn't healthy. So she contacts magical girls that aren't part of the Wings of Magius to come and get her out of it. And it's a really good double act. We see this kid who has been bullied and forgotten, trying to find something to make her life a little bit tolerable. And when she does, it's not something that allows her to grow. It's a very kind of like stationary, like safe space that doesn't really make her healthier. And so we kind of see her deal with that, and it's really sweet. I wish it was earlier, though. I wish we got to see Sana join the cast earlier, because after that, she doesn't do much.
Yeah, we quickly sort of like roll headfirst to the climax. So
yeah,
which she doesn't really even get to participate in. So
she's got a big shield, and that's fun.
Yeah. I think everything about her character as a construct is neat, and it's effective. She didn't have as much of an impact on me the second time, but I also think it's because the scenario surrounding her is kind of dumb in some ways. Like
it's weirdly it doesn't fit the theme of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
we have some new rules that are being put in place all of a sudden that feel very contrived.
Yes.
So like we have an uasa, which is like verbal in their language, and it has a mind of its own, seems to be speaking to them. It's possible that like the uasa isn't really actually what's talking, and it's a projection of Sana. That's what I kind of think is happening. In which case that makes more sense. It's Sana kind of having her own projected like crystalline labyrinth where she's just kind of like, you know, stuck in this like grief-stricken period until she kind of gets broken out of that. But like leading up to that, the search for her is a little bit tedious. It's kind of like a very slow point of the show where we're just kind of catching up with some characters and doing like research on the rumor as it exists. And it's a big pace breaker, so it might hurt your attention on the show. And the sequence following that, where that like airwave space kind of gets broken up, is just outright stupid. Like, Iroha and Sana are falling out of the sky because to get into Sana's labyrinth first, you had to fall off of the specific high place off the tower. And so they're falling, and then they get like magnetically drawn over because someone essentially does the equivalent of hit the big red button. Felicia's like, "Hey, button!" Bam! It hits it, and then this like magnetic pull pulls them out of the air and brings them back towards the rest of the group, and they have a fight with the wings of Magius. And it's just kind of like, it's just weird.
It's super bizarre.
It's not like Witch Labyrinth fantasy logic. It's like fake fantasy cartoon logic that's suddenly happening. Which is, it's also odd because like they are like super powered magical girls which don't seem to take fall damage, so like, certainly it's disorienting to fall from that kind of height, but for the most part they're like pretty safe and pretty capable. So the fact that they pull them back into the scene with a literal actual magnet that's just kind of like there, and the magnet tower thing is also weird and has like feet, like, I don't know, like it's just weird, it's just odd, and that throws me out of it so much. So yeah, I like Sana, but everything around Sana is just so distracting. And so I think, with that in mind, she had less of an impact on me second time around. Okay.
Yep, I agree. She's not as good. But she's fine. She's not offensive. And that's okay. What about Felicia?
Felicia is where the storytelling gets very blunt. And in some ways I think that's great. Like, it doesn't take any like any deep like mental wriggling in order to sort of figure out what's going on with Felicia. She'll tell you. She'll tell you that her parents were killed by witches, and that she hates witches. You're going to find out that she's a delinquent who, is homeless and gets in fights. Like, you're going to see right off the bat that she's very, like, naive and vulnerable to, various scams and schemes and things like that. And that's it. Like, her part of the show, you can really kind of just turn your brain off and just see it all go. Which is not a bad thing, it adds some variety, but given like the regular style of Madoka, I imagine if other people are like us, that's one of the reasons why we don't really dig it as much. It's not as like, it doesn't raise as much curiosity. Everything's pretty apparent.
She also is like a very, very close direct tie to Kyoko.
Yeah, lots of DNA between those two characters.
To the point where, like, I don't know if this was on purpose, but during the time that she's doing it, Kyoko is in the story, like, giving her advice.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird. Not weird. I think it was kind of like a way to be like, hey, look, we know that these characters are similar, straight down to like being murdered by witches and having this hot streak.
Yeah. It's very on the nose.
And it's very on the nose. I do like the Lucky Owl Water arc as a whole.
Yeah.
I like the numbers counting down in various ways. Some of them are like very subtle.
Yeah.
I think Felicia's fine. She has the worst outfit though.
Mm-hmm. I think
fucking
the horns on her hat
terrible.
being like, hey, look, it's a gremlin character. I get it.
Yeah, she has. But like, she has like a fucking short skirt, like, weird chest plate, and her hood is just ugly.
Yeah, it's just not great. It's
pretty
underwhelming. Especially compared to some of the more like fanciful ideas they'll have.
Well, and even having like the long like braids in the back of her hood also looks stupid.
Yeah, none of it really,
because they're not her hair.
It doesn't really communicate like her background details. There's a lot you can get into with, who she is. Like I mentioned, like they do put work into empathizing her situation and being, like homeless and, being, not only grief stricken but like filled with anger at a very young age, and really unable to sort of put that to anything, and then also not being self-sufficient. Like there's a lot going on, but none of that feels like it feeds back constructively into her outfit, really. I don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's talk about Iraha. What do you think of Iraha?
I feel like I don't have that much to say about her.
I feel like that's like her entire character.
And maybe that's also because she's growing. Like, she starts off pretty mild, but like honestly, she's fairly assertive compared to someone like, not compared to, Madoka is also assertive, but Madoka spends a lot of time in the dark. Whereas Iroha picks up on things pretty quickly.
Yeah, she's not naive, and to be fair, she doesn't have someone trying to keep her naive.
Yeah,
like what Homura does to Madoka. But having Iroha be very like investigative and she's pretty front about it. She tracks down the one of the twins by herself with no outward help. No one tells her to go do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good. I think her being a little bit more independent separates her from Madoka.
Yeah. Yeah, it just so happens that she's also kind of mild-mannered. Like, so when dealing with Felicia, for example, she doesn't have that much to say besides just like, hey, we'll support you. And like also like, those are opportunities for her to realize like, oh, I'm not really helping Felicia by saying these things. I need to try another approach. That's valuable. But in the meantime, she is not a character who's particularly leveraging a lot of interesting choices or causing a lot of, like conflict or contrast in the story. She's very much, a stable driver behind the wheel. And so while everyone else is kind of like having fun in the back of the golf cart, she's just kind of like steadily keeping it 20 miles an hour, I think.
Yeah, that's a fast golf cart, Brantley.
Is it? I've never ridden a golf cart, so
wow,
well, I guess I technically have it.
Hold on, golf cart speeds, because okay, so real quick tangent. I do know golf carts that can reach that. My grandparents live in like a retirement area, and everyone drives golf carts instead of cars. And they do have fast golf carts, but the average top speed of a typical golf cart without any upgrades, according to gsgolfcarts.com, is 12 to 14 miles per hour. Okay. However, there are upgrades.
So it goes to show what I know about golf carts and vehicular speed and Iroha's ability to upgrade a golf cart.
So let's talk about Yachio, baby.
Yeah, she's great. It's weird because like I I don't even know why I like Yachio that much. Like,
Yachio's weirdly consistent in what she does.
Mhm.
It's very interesting because they straight up talk about it. Yachio is 19.
Mhm.
She is in college. She has a modeling career. She has been a magical girl for a long fucking time.
Mhm.
Like if magical girls are like start when they're like 13 or 14, she has like 5 years experience being a magical girl.
Mhm.
So she's very competent. There's never a time where you don't think that she doesn't have it under control, which makes it scary when she is like, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah.
And I dig that. I dig the responsibility that she has. And it's not like a fake responsibility that Mommy has, because Mommy feels like she has a responsibility, but Mommy's barely older than Madoka anyway.
Mhm.
Yachio has seen so much more shit than anyone else, and I love that. She's not particularly powerful. She's definitely the strongest, but out of like the cast in here, but she still gets like, you know, shown up by Mommy,
Mhm.
right? So it's interesting to have that. It's interesting to have a competent but not powerful character.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like it's interesting to see her go from like well, she's having the whole like I'm still getting over my trauma from, you know, losing my friends and found family from before and warming back up into that. You know, the way that she's stiff arming the cast in like a reverse Homura sort of way, where she's like, no one interact with me, you know, I'm gonna do this on my own, and then you know realizes that as a projection of her compassion for people really is saying, hey, you should be interacting with them, you should be helping people, you know, that's what's valuable to you and you're good at it, you know, and she comes back around to it. I think that's nice. It's just kind of a safe thing to do, and it's fun to watch. And you know, her sort of like, you know, muted but nuanced personality, I think, you know, does make that entertaining to watch, you know. You know, I'm sure that some people went absolutely wild for the, you know, the Madoka, there's a sale at the grocery store, you know, thing.
I can't believe you just used Madoka.
Madoka goes to show what I know about Madoka golf carts.
Fuck!
Oh,
You did it. You fucked up. You did the biggest fuck up on this podcast right then and there. Nothing will ever top that. You called Iroha Madoka after we specifically talked about how she's not just a Madoka clone. And I think that is the worst thing that you could have done right now.
I'm gonna say it right now. I, as the editor of this podcast, am not going to remove that part.
As you shouldn't, because it's fucking hilarious. Because you're incompetent, you dumbass. But yes, I love the scene where they go to the grocery store.
Uh-huh.
It's just
I love the part where Homura and Madoka go to the grocery store.
I just think that there's something so charming about a college age magical girl, and I wish we got to see more of it in not shitty ways. Because I'm sure there's some that are bad, but there's just something so wonderful about like just like a slice of life superhero magical girl who's just like, I need to get this shit on the sale, and thankfully I have inscripted these 2 gremlin children so they can also buy me food.
If you liked it in One Punch Man, you'll like it here too.
Yes, but I don't like One Punch Man.
I you know what though I do like though is that like, although it is like it's a gag, it doesn't go into gag mode. This is not like Yuki Yuna, where everything starts like shifting dramatically in how like the presentation is. You know, no one's doing exaggerated faces. You know, no one's making like, you know, sort of rude backhanded comments about like, who would have thought she would have gotten so excited about this or anything like that. Like, it's clear that like she's getting, you know, very into this as you know, a newly minted adult, and that's subtly funny. It doesn't have to play like the fucking, it doesn't have exactly. It doesn't have to actually cue that to you. You just know. You just know this is silly. Yeah, I think that works. I think that them using Yachio in the way that they do, which is, pulled back, and, they let whatever subtext and text sort of, arise out of the context she's in. That's great.
Yes.
She's a safe character, but she works. They didn't fuck her up, so she ends up being like...
Yet.
Yeah. It's... I feel like it's a character they have a blueprint for, but the ways in which they kept to that blueprint are effective.
100%. 100. Totally agree. Dab.
Gotta love it. Love Homura. Love Homura. Homura's great. No.
Alright, so, I think I'd recommend Magia Record to people that like Madoka. If you want to see the weird aesthetic choices in the fight scenes, you get more of that. If you're looking for something to give you, if you're looking for season 2 of Madoka, this is not that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it wanted to be ever. Mm-hmm. So, whatever. You have any finishing thoughts before we move into themes and hypotheticals?
I do want to mention the music. I really like the music.
Oh, fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
The Uwasa theme that will, like it has motifs in a lot of the tracks, and, like, there's the actual Uwasa, like, song that I think the little QB sings, or at least that's what it seems like. That was written or composed by J.A. Caesar, who's also the Revolutionary Girl Utena guy.
Neat.
So
that's some...
Yeah. That's a
there's a lot. Oh, real quick, there's a ton of fucking Revolutionary Girl Utena themes in this, like just a fuck ton. Like the little familiar that spreads the rumors reminds me so much of the Do you know
yeah
girls from fuck that shit's cash.
Mm-hmm.
So the music for Magia Record is Takumi Ozawa, who was not the music of Madoka. That was Yuki Kajirura, and she did a lot. She's like, holy fuck, did she do a lot? She's done like, but we're not talking about her. But she did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But Takumi Ozawa has only done Magia Record, Hitsugi no Chaika, Hidden no Iria, Divine Gate, and Ukamiki Kakushi. So, not a lot. Just very, very... But choice music for this. There's a lot of good themes in this one.
Yeah. I'm almost always enjoying whatever they're piping in. There's one part in the show where they randomly cut the music, where they do like a hard cut, which feels very really Yuki Yuna, actually. But like, that's like a disappointing moment for me, because it's like, oh, I was enjoying the music.
But it is emotionally evocative.
Yeah, it
gets
is.
The people going.
Let's see. What's interesting to me is that I like, if I were to sort of have a, like, do you prefer this or that out of, original Madoka and Magia Record? Most everything goes to original Madoka except the music. As much as I love the music in original Madoka, I definitely listen to the music from Magia Record much more often.
Right.
And I actually choose to, which I don't do with a lot of anime soundtracks.
Yeah, no, it's fucking good.
So here's some of my favorites I'm just going to throw in there. Track 3, La Chica Dijo. That plays during like the triumphant sort of fight scenes. Number 7, Kamihama Polyphonic, which is great. Just try to say 5 times fast. Kamihama Polyphonic, Kamihama Polyphonic, Kamihama it just... Number 12, Philosopher's Play, which is like during like the flashbacks, especially with the... I think with the Wings of Magius founders. I think it's when it plays with them. That's a really good one. It's got some like really strong bittersweet tones to it, and it has like the tinkly little like music box thing going on. Just really great. Really great music. I think it's one of the strong points of this show. And if you don't like the show, you'll probably still like the music anyways, because it's close enough to Madoka style while also being divergent in some interesting, fashions. So you go check
Yeah.
that out, listen to it, and fantasize about what the hell is going to happen in movie 4.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about some themes.
Okay. I'm not gonna try to. I'm gonna try not to talk too much about themes because I'm sure this is all gonna change with like season 2, season 3. But the process of like venting out your like magical corruption with your doppel, I think is interesting. So they're presenting a very different world than Madoka original. Like you can regulate your emotions by ostensibly being true to yourself and being emotionally vulnerable and expressing that. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be fully ostracized for it. Especially if you have a situation like Yachio and Iroha being aware of this together, and so they're like mutually using their doppels. They're exerting their emotions together, like in sync. It's interesting. Weirdly enough, the whole thread of rumors is something that I didn't pick up on the first time at all.
Well, neither did I. For some reason, despite how fucking obvious it is. It was like 4 a.m. to like 7 a.m. when we were watching that during like the middle of the quarantine.
That's true.
So that was forgive us.
Yeah. But it's like the rumors I think are one of the consistent factors across this show when otherwise we're getting into themes that are more character specific. So I'm not going to try to wrap this up too holistically. Besides that, like, there's the usual, like, we're better together, found family stuff going on, and that, rumors play into how they operate as this, like, subculture. I'm looking forward to thinking about that more deeply. And in the meantime, there's a lot of, like, symbolism to chew on. So, like, for example, Reina being related to TVs, and how like she's kind of seeing herself, separately, as if watching like a camera record her and seeing what that camera is capturing. That's very much like a dissociative feeling, where you're having that like out of body feeling. You're going to thematically see that visualized. The way that the wings of Magius are dressed up like moths to the flame, which is come to Kamihama. Like there's that. Iroha's doppel like masks her face and sort of has like a hear no evil, see no evil, that kind of thing going on. Speak no evil, as it sort of takes over her. And that I feel like, the way she blacks out and wakes up without memory of what happened very much parallels her missing memories about what happened to Ui. And so, like, those little, like, thematic stints are interesting. And there's plenty more that I've got no fucking clue about.
Yeah, there's...
But... For example, Felicia and Iroha are talking, and there's birds around, and then just there's like a broken egg that's on the. Okay, what's that? I don't know.
Or the unicycle parade.
The unicycle's going around the school like fountain or wherever. I don't remember where that was at.
It's so dumb.
Certainly keeps me thinking though. It keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
So okay, just listing off literally the last notes I have on like visual metaphors that they throw at you. The more blunt ones would include the like, what do they call it? On a lawn when you have a like, okay, when Felicia breaks down and the lawn sprinklers turn on. That's like, it's very blunt. Like, it couldn't be more blunt than that. But hey, it's something. That's how the show operates. The Ghost Burger thing
Yes.
that Grant mentioned before, where it's like their inner thoughts are just being literally written out on like the digital boards, like the windows sort of that are like surrounding that booth. Not everything thematically here is necessarily challenging to wrap your head around. They do want you to like just see it and hear it sometimes. So I think it's best if I try not to encapsulate it all into one thing. We're just gonna wait and let it pan out, and we'll revisit this farther down the line.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have any themes. Everything basically that you said is things that I believe. I really hope that we get to see some things.
Do you believe that Iroha is actually Madoka?
I really hope we get to see some things get figured out in season 2. I do remember watching season 2. The main cast seems to have a little bit more of a. They have a little bit more of a. They focus up a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I know. There's an episode dedicated to Homura and Magia record, so in season 2. So that's gonna be weird to see. But we'll talk about that later. So, Brantley, I think it's hypothetical time.
Alrighty. Just know that I'm gonna save everyone from a hypothetical surrounding the ketchup and cheesecake.
Oh fuck!
Because that happened.
I forgot about the ketchup and cheesecake. It's stupid. Why?
So yeah, I'm not gonna. Let's just not even go there. Everyone saw it. Everyone knows. Feel free to talk in the comments if you really feel like it. But moving on. Okay, so first hypothetical. Let's say that we're gonna go buy some mugs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what does your representative mug look like?
So one time, I knew this was coming, and I have it planned. One time when I was in college, and our mutual friend Kayla was living in Chicago, doing an internship. I went to visit her. To go to Anime Midwest, and she gave me a Sonic the Hedgehog mug. That is literally just like pour mug. It's not like a mug with like a Sonic face on it. It is literally pour coffee into Sonic's head and drink out of it mug. It's nearly impossible to drink. There is a part, if you drink it, Sonic's ears will spike into your eyes. If you do not drink it correctly, that is my mug. I love that mug.
Fair enough.
Ooh, I also have a beard mug that I made with my friend Candace. That looks like me. It looks like the bottom half of my face. So that is another one of my mugs that I really like. I have 2 very special mugs, and those are them.
Alrighty. I think I'd have a plain white mug
with bread on it.
with
a picture of sliced white bread.
It's just the
just
top
says,
and bottom.
This is hot chocolate. It just says, it's just a plain white bread, and it just says, this is hot chocolate, not coffee. Frowny face. Sorry.
It's got a little it's pure white except the top and bottom are like slightly tinted brown as if bread crusts. That's it.
That's actually that's much better and much cooler and much your style, because you would have something that is noticeably better designed than what I just said.
Okay. Now
also,
yeah,
drinking hot chocolate is not a problem. Hot chocolate is delicious.
Listen, everyone who's listening, everyone in the comments, it's okay to drink hot chocolate.
Well, I know there's some fucking coffee fans that are like, if you're not drinking it black, you're a pussy. And it's like, fuck you. Let people drink their drinks the way they want to.
I knew people would have like there's that. I didn't realize that they'd also extend over to hot chocolate.
Oh yeah. Hot chocolate is a baby's drink according to those coffee drinkers.
The fuck? I would assume that it's so far out of the realm of coffee that you just don't even pick the fight, but okay.
They're always down to fight.
Okay. I guess like when I was like, hey, I might get into coffee. What should I try? And people were like white mocha because it tastes like hot chocolate. I was like, okay. And I tried it. I was like, this doesn't taste like hot chocolate.
You need a good white mocha. Next time you're in town, I'll take you to a place that has better drinks.
No, that's okay. I decided I don't want to get hooked on coffee after I had
Fair.
I had an experience where I needed to do some grading and I wanted to blast through it. And so I was like, I'm tired as hell. I'm overworked from various, club work and, grading and activities, etc. So I'm going to get some of that caffeinated chocolate and I'm going to have some of that. I had like 1.5 squares of it and I thought I was going to die. I was like, oh god, are these like am I going to give myself a heart attack?
Yes.
I immediately felt sick. This is like my whole body feels like my every molecule is vibrating, and I didn't get anything done. I was like, I need to basically medically counsel myself until this passes. This is a terrible idea. So I'm just not gonna pick a fight with coffee. Okay. Last hypothetical, hopefully more meaty. Reconceptualize a region of America. Could be a town, could be a state, could be a city, whatever. Reconceptualize it to be a magical girl coven. What goes on there?
Oh man. Okay.
If you need time to think, I can give
definitely Portland. Absolutely 100%. It's weird as hell over there. You got fascists and like anti-fascists fighting in the streets occasionally. There's like a bazillion different types of hipster donuts that everyone wants to eat. It's beautiful. It's beautiful in Portland. There's like there's a lot of good areas there. Like you can post up on one of the buildings and look off into like a field full of like spruce trees, and you're like, hell yeah, I'm in a city. There's a one video of the girl singing her song on a guitar that says, "I'll suck your dick for a cup of coffee." And I'm just like, damn, there's some strange shit going on there. I bet it's magical girls.
What do you think she wished for?
A cup of coffee.
Apparently not if she's one's...
Yes. Portland. Portland would be one. Where else? What's a random small town in like Nebraska? It's just like one street. Yeah, that's my vote. Do you have a city that you'd probably believe to be a magical girl coven?
I thought about Oklahoma, just in general. Partially because I was like, what sounds like it fits the naming scheme of Madoka places. So it's like Mitakihara, yeah, Takurazaki, Kamihama, and I was like, Oklahoma.
Perfect.
So, my idea is that there'd be, you have like a trio of magical girls. They used to all be friends, but two of them start getting into a tiff because, well, they insist that it's the fight over like their territory because like fucking nothing else is happening in Oklahoma. Fair. And so it's like, they insist that it's about like the territory they're fighting on, but in reality it's because they're being possessive over their mutual friend. And both of them have been spending their grief seeds on that mutual friend to like essentially to keep her safe and to like try to win her favor when she doesn't want to be like a part of that necessarily. But then like they're on sort of their last stand, and one of the two is fighting goes witch and thrusts them into this labyrinth where they go through this elaborate dream sequence dance. And then they survive that, and they defeat the friend turned witch, and then the two remaining girls stick together, but have nothing really left for them because they're in fucking Oklahoma.
We need to draw the Oklahoma magical girls.
That That'd be a fun.
That'd be a fun stream. That's a good idea. All right, I have one.
I hope you did realize that I was trying to like connect that somewhat back to the musical.
Yes, I did. But I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I don't want to acknowledge that musical exists.
Just want to comment on it.
Now I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
If you were a rumor, if there was a rumor, what rumor would you be that would cause a Uesawa?
So in other words, like I manifest as a rumor.
Yes. Like
Ooh, that's interesting.
I'll tell you mine while I continue.
Okay.
There's a lot of touristy traps where I live. Not touristy traps where people take pictures. And I grocery shop a lot and I walk. So I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on one of our episodes. And so I always have a plastic bag full of whatever I'm eating that night because I just go to the grocery store. I don't grocery shop. I just go to the grocery store, get what I'm going to eat, and bring it back here. So I am in a bunch of tourist pictures from where I'm from. Because I live right next to where like all the bars are. And so there's like a good chance that I'm like the grocery bag guy. And I just appear in your pictures. And I look upset because I have to wait for the light to turn green. So that's my rumor. I'm the grocery bag guy.
I love that. I guess like for me, I get really upset when people try to like they try to sleaze by through a building without their mask on, like all the way, or like they'll be passing through, so they won't put their mask on. That pisses me off so much. But I also like sometimes people just forget, or like they're in the middle of like walking and eating a granola bar or something. So it's like in those cases, context suggests that like it would be rude to just like interrupt and assume this person doesn't know what they're doing. And so like I oftentimes like I try to if I can make eye contact with someone, I tug on my own mask up over my nose as if to be like in the same way that you might like scratch your face to like indicate to someone they have something there they need to wipe off. And so I want to think that combined with my absolute like in general bland and forgettable presence, that I'm like something you see out of the corner of your vision, and like you think it was looking at you or that it was trying to say something to you, but you have no like perceivable memory of what that was. Kind of like when you swear there's a fly that's like buzzing around you, but you haven't actually seen it. You just like sense that there's motion. I think that's what I would be. I'm just a gnat. That's what I'm at. I'm a gnat.
All right. Do you have any final things about Magia Record?
I don't think so. Not for now.
We'll get back to it. It won't be our next one though, because Brantley, what are we doing next?
We are making our way through High Guardian Spice.
It's gonna be an interesting topic. We talked about it for like 5. I said we should do it because I know it is controversial for both being not the highest quality, but also very progressive. So we'll see. And we're taking the bull by the horns. And it was really funny because, which, by the way, that's the B in LGBT. Bull by the horns. I told Brantley, I'm like, I think, and now I'm gonna get canceled for bi erasure. I told Brantley this, and Brantley's like, I don't know if we can actually talk about it, and then we accidentally talked about it for 25 minutes. So it's gonna be a good one. So with that, thank you so much for listening. We streamed on Twitch every Monday. This Monday we're gonna get back into probably some Deadly Premonition 2, which is one of our longer streams. We have a bunch of other videos. You should go check out our best of video. That is one of my favorite videos to listen to when I'm feeling down. It's just me and Brantley laughing at stupid shit for like 15 minutes. I just did a speed run of Conrad Golden's tweets about how speedrunning is a communist ploy, and I want to see people start to beat that. So if you liked what you listened to, leave a comment, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitch, subscribe, or don't do any of that because we are not your dads.